This script is designed as a continuous, long-form narrative for a 20-minute video. To reach the 20-minute mark, the delivery should be measured and reflective, allowing for pauses and visual transitions. It explores the psychological tug-of-war between the structure of discipline and the paralysis of doubt. Discipline or doubt, the internal war. We often frame our lives as a series of external battles, climbing the career ladder, hitting fitness goals, or managing relationships, but the most exhausting war is the one happening in the quiet space between our ears. It is the constant friction between discipline and doubt. Discipline is the quiet, consistent architect of our future, the version of us that shows up when the sun isn't out and the motivation has dried up. Doubt, on the other hand, is the master of what if. It is a loud, persuasive voice that doesn't necessarily tell us we aren't good enough, but whispers that perhaps the effort isn't worth the outcome. To understand why we get stuck, we have to look at how these two forces interact within the human brain. While the prefrontal cortex tries to enforce the structure of discipline, the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, often triggers the doubt that keeps us in a state of safety and stagnation. The trap most of us fall into is waiting for doubt to disappear before we begin the work of discipline. We treat doubt as a stop sign, assuming that its presence means we aren't ready or that our plan is flawed. In reality, doubt is a permanent resident in the house of any ambitious person. The difference between those who achieve and those who remain paralyzed isn't the absence of fear. It's the refusal to let fear hold the steering wheel. Discipline is the act of driving, while doubt is screaming in the passenger seat. When we talk about discipline, we often think of it as a rigid, joyless cage. We see the 5 a.m. wake-up calls and the strict diets as a form of punishment. However, if you shift your perspective, you realize that discipline is actually the highest form of self-love. It is the willingness to sacrifice a small, immediate pleasure for a large, lasting peace of mind. Doubt thrives on the immediate. It wants you to stay in bed because it's warm now, even if it means you'll be stressed and behind later. When doubt begins to overwhelm your discipline, it usually manifests as analysis paralysis. You start researching more than you are doing. You buy more books, watch more tutorials, and ask for more opinions, all under the guise of being prepared. But preparation without execution is just procrastination with a fancy name. This is where the biological feedback loop comes in. Every time you choose discipline over doubt, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, reinforcing the neural pathways of doing. Conversely, every time you let doubt win, you reinforce the pathway of retreating. Over time, these pathways become highways. If you spent the last 5 years retreating, the highway to doubt is wide and well paved, while the path to discipline is overgrown with weeds. Rebuilding that discipline requires you to clear the path one small, boring, repetitive action at a time. The relationship between these two forces is also deeply tied to our sense of identity. Doubt is often an inherited narrative, the voices of critics, past failures, or societal expectations that told us to stay in our lane. Discipline is the process of rewriting that narrative. It is the physical manifestation of the belief that you can change. If you didn't believe change was possible, you wouldn't bother with discipline at all. This is why the most disciplined people are often the ones who have the most quiet minds. They have reached a point where they no longer debate with their doubt. They don't wake up and ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" Because they've removed the question from the equation entirely. They have automated their excellence so that doubt has no entry point. As we look toward the future, the battle between discipline and doubt only becomes more intense. We live in an era of infinite distraction where doubt is commodified. Algorithms are designed to show us people who are more successful, more fit, and more perfect, feeding the doubt that our own disciplined efforts are insufficient. To survive this, you must develop a radical inner scorecard. You have to stop comparing your day 1 of discipline to someone else's year 10. Doubt loves a comparison, but discipline only cares about the reps you put in today. If you can move just 1 inch forward while doubt is telling you to stay still, you have won the day. Ultimately, the choice between discipline and doubt is a choice between the pain of effort and the pain of regret. One is a sharp, temporary sting that builds muscle and character. The other is a dull, heavy ache that grows more burdensome every year you carry it. You cannot wait for the doubt to leave. It is a ghost that will haunt you as long as you are doing things that matter. Your task is to build a structure of discipline so strong that the ghost can't find a place to sit. It's about showing up when you're tired, starting before you're ready, and trusting the process more than you trust your feelings. Because at the end of 20 years, the only thing that will remain is the version of yourself that discipline built, long after the whispers of doubt have faded into silence.